give you a fun tip. Most of the times when I'm talking to people in terms of recruitment, I always ask them, well, what did you
Mhm.
study? And what's so funny is, one of the funniest answers they give me, they'll say,
Mm.
they gave me zoology. They gave me. So I'm like, who gave you? And and so that's a very peculiar thing in Nigeria, but it's
Yeah.
always just very funny to me. All right. So did they give you
Yeah.
sociology?
No, they did not give me
They didn't give you.
sociology. No,
Okay.
I chose
Okay.
sociology. So I actually applied to two schools. I applied to Unilag, sociology, and I'd applied to law, LASU. I remember I'd always wanted to be a lawyer, right? So I'd applied to law, just applied to two. But I got Unilag first, right? And then I started classes before I got law in last week, which was very great. But then I just realized that I already had like the law for sociology, and I didn't want to go go back to law, go do anything law anymore. And so I had to just forfeit that admission. And then, and I'm super grateful that, I made that decision because it has actually been the best decision, yeah, or one of the best decisions I've ever taken. So they didn't give me
Nice.
sociology.
Nice. I'm happy to hear that, and I'm glad like you sort of already knew your part early on, right?
Yeah.
So you did sociology then. So how
Mhm.
did we maneuver get to this HR
So,
profession?
so HR, again, I didn't know for HR, I did not know I was going to do HR when I was in school. I had no idea what HR was even at the time. I'd not studied it, I'd not come across it. I was just enjoying my time in university, to be very honest, just enjoying my sister, but I never really had clarity on what it was that I was going to do, after school. So I think it was during my work period for convocation. I
Yeah.
got an internship at an FMCG close to my parents' house, and I was working as an administrative assistant. I
Okay.
was reporting to the HR team, specifically the head of HR at the time. So I was an intern basically. And she give me tasks, oh, do this, do that, document this, document that. And before I knew it, she was, telling me, oh, go speak to, these workers. We had factory workers, of course. So, oh, go speak
Right.
to this factory worker. This person has a concern, that person has a concern, try to find out what is wrong and all of that. I just felt okay. I don't know why she's telling me to do this, but maybe because
Right.
I like talking, maybe because I just like, gisting with people. But, that experience was actually very good because I got to know people, outside the circle that I've always known. I just really got to understand how, other people think, the concerns. And then I felt, oh, if I could be in this position, right, to influence something, to do something good for other people, for employees, then why don't I just follow in this path? And that was how that started. So I started making a lot of research. Oh, how can I influence? If I'm in this position, I can do a lot of good if I'm in this position. So that was how that started. And, the love for HR basically started. So, yeah.
All right. Great, great, great. So you've worked so I
Mm.
talked about your background, right? Sociology, and you then got into HR, and you've worked in different industries. I think in terms of your career path, you had worked with a company called Concept Number, which is interesting. So maybe that's where the interest in go-to came. So maybe you've gone full circle because I know Concept Number has to do with tracking and things like that.
Yeah.
At one point you worked as a data analyst. At one point you worked with Finch Glow. So
Mm-hmm.
um, let's talk about Meko. How did the opportunity for Meko come about? Again, this is HR, and then
Yeah.
maybe tell us about, Meko itself. So how did the opportunity for Meko come about?
So for Meko, it was a referral. A friend had told me about a startup, right, that wanted to establish its presence in Nigeria. It was a tech startup. So when I say it was a startup, it was a startup, right? It wasn't a startup that they already had people, they already had a
It's
team.
not the
Something took
glamour that
over.
so TechCrunch. We're announcing on TechCrunch. No, it
Yeah.
wasn't.
We
Okay.
were really starting. We were really starting. I even remember my interview. It wasn't in an office. It was at a very nice, and I was like, restaurant. Why am I having my interview in this really nice? So there was no office. They were still working on the office. So it was
Right.
really a startup. And for me, I had fear, I had doubt. But then I also saw it as a challenge because I'm like, I'm coming from, structured organizations, everything is prim and proper, everything is just there already, structures, policies, everything is there, right? It's just basically to improve on them. And then, do I really want to join an organization? We have to start everything from scratch. But then I just saw it as a challenge because I was like, okay, so I've worked in a structured organization. Let me see how far I can push myself if I were to build an HR department, from ground up, and not just build an HR department, build, an organization basically from the scratch. And that was how I took that, like a leap of faith.
Leap of faith. You took the jump.
Yes.
I think there is something to touch on in terms of your entrepreneurial experience. So you have an outfit, HR Spotlight. So you're an entrepreneur yourself. So you started that in 2021, right? I was joking the other day that you're an HR celeb. So for those of you that don't know, you can help her increase her profile. Esther has over 50,000 followers on LinkedIn, right? And they all just want to hear what she has to say. So we are the lucky few that is getting her live directly into her, right? So you have that. So maybe before we quickly go into Meko, so you had that. So do you think in terms of the entrepreneurial spirit and then building, and then how did you build that? Was that what made you say, okay, you know what, I'll take this leap of faith, but because I've done it before, okay, maybe no issues.
So for that, I think that's how did that happen? Before I'd officially created that, I've been getting a lot of requests. I need help with prepping for my interviews. I need help reviewing my CVs. I need help with this and that and all of that career advice and all. I was still, working on my own
You two
career.
are still figuring your career.
Yeah, so that was how that happened. And I couldn't keep up with a lot of the requests because they were just here, there, and all of that. So sometimes it seemed as though I didn't want to help. It was just because I was occupied with my own thing. I had a full-time job, and then I was still trying to do, all of these things. So I decided, you know what, I'm just going to make this very structured. So I had somebody do, put all of this together, put, whatever proposals, put whatever group I needed together, just to keep everything, in one place, basically, just keep it structured.
This is why I told you that we put.
It happens.
Don't worry, it's okay. Sorry, guys, if you don't. Yeah.
Okay. So that was how that started. Okay, all right.
I want to make sure that everyone can. All right. Thank you very much.
Great.
So,
okay.
So sorry, guys, please, if you're not allowed to unmute unless I call on you. If you do unmute, I kick you out of the room. So, yeah. So Esther, apologies.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So that was how that started. And since then, it's just been okay. I mean, I still work with people individually, and I still work with small organizations, structure their organizations, how they can structure their companies. So just give all of those, just act on an advisory level, basically, for small organizations, and then help individuals as well, just to set up themselves for career growth. And so yeah, that was how that started, and that's how it has been so far.
All right. Thank you. Apologies, everyone, for the disruption. Like I told you, it's unfortunate. And once I've had this experience, and I don't know if you guys have had this experience, so we have to put that trying to create webinars. So I have had this experience, and so now I'm a lot more guided. So unfortunately, I'll have to call on you if you have questions. If you have any questions, please do put it in the chat, right, or in the Q&A box, and then I will call on you if you have questions. All right. So going back to the conversation. So why don't you tell us about Meko, why we're here? So let's talk about Meko and how you're building a team at Meko.
So Meko is a Y Combinator backed Africa's was a leading platform basically for vehicle maintenance and genuine aftermarket parts distribution in Nigeria. But basically the first to do this in terms of infusing technology into the traditional automotive space. A lot of automotive space are just, you go to you go to the spare part market to buy spare parts, or you go to a roadside mechanic, or you go to a garage or whatever, or workshop to, fix your vehicles and all of that. But the interesting thing that MECO did was to infuse technology into all of our services. So you have maintenance, you have repairs, you have servicing of vehicles. However, we have an application where you can just download and then make your request. So we come to you. You don't necessarily have to go through that stress of having to look for a roadside mechanic or going to a workshop. We just bring that, we bring that solution to you, and that takes off a lot of stress. So we're actually the first to do this, but we have a lot of companies doing this now. But it's good that we sort of set the set the pace.
All right.
And then there is that bit, and then there is also the aftermarket bit. We sort of act as middlemen because we have dealers, we have B2Bs in the in the market basically that want aftermarket parts. So we have relationships, we have built solid relationships with manufacturers in the Asian European market, and we just import this genuine aftermarket parts into Nigeria, and then we distribute to dealers in the market like Aspanda, Ladipo, and then also corporate organizations. Another thing that we offer, another benefit that we offer, which makes us stand out, is we offer financing. So for vendors or for customers that want to import, let's say, a container of spare parts, but don't really have the money to do that, we can just offer to fund a certain percentage of that, depending on what the agreement is. We do all of the clearing, we bring the products in, and then you just sell. Once you've sold, you pay us back in installments as agreed. So this is very, very easy for people that sell parts in the market. Just makes everything very, very seamless for you. And then you don't have, now the economy is very volatile. There's the whole forex thing, so it's very difficult for part sellers in the market to import. But we have that connection, so it's a bit easier for us to have that importation, and then we just sell to you, you distribute. So that's in summary, that's basically what we do. We're an auto tech company. We have vehicle maintenance, repairs, spare parts, but we infuse technology into it.
All right, interesting. So I'm going to make a slight joke and then segue into the next one, because what I want to ask is, so you had a conversation, this was a startup, you had a conversation with the co-founder, and he probably told you, oh, I'm looking to organize mechanics. So basically we're talking about, oh, my Mr. Ken days, or Mr. Sadiq's, these are not the most structured people, right?
Yeah.
So you want to organize them, and you want to basically provide services and all that. So and you had your first interview in a restaurant. So how did you then approach it, saying, okay, we want to organize mechanics, you're coming from corporate. How did you then approach it in saying, okay, if I'm coming as the HR, how do I go out then, recruiting, for this type of organization, or how do I plan that?
It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of joint efforts, right? It wasn't a situation of, oh, HR, we've hired you as the HR manager or whatever, and we just need you to do this. It was a lot of joint effort. So the COO also sort of had like a relationship with some technicians he had worked with in the past. So we just started with them, about 2-3 of them, right? So we just started with those technicians, and then we built on it. So what we were doing, we used to organize a technician training. There is an association, I can't remember the name of the association now, where you have a lot of technicians, different technicians, panel beaters, whatever, painters and all. So we used to have trainings for all of these technicians. We bring them together, give them food and all of that. And that was how we were recruiting these technicians, vetting them, and also that was how that grew. But still, it wasn't it wasn't easy, but it was an interesting experience. Yeah.
Right. That's very interesting. So the approach to recruit, people in the informal sector is totally different from, if you are looking at.
Oh, yes. You can't just put out a job ad and expect them. I mean, you're going to get a lot, but you're probably not going to get the best. So we had to go to them. We didn't wait for them to come to us. We had to go to them, to recruit.
All right, all right. Thank you. So that's very interesting. So now, Echo is, I think, 4 years down the line, almost 5 years, if I'm
Yeah.
correct, right? So
Yeah.
how do you approach recruiting now? Your YC back. So for those that don't know, Y Combinator is a tech accelerator that invests in businesses to help them grow faster. So, you received funding from this
Yeah.
US establishment, and so there was a bit more structure. So how do you approach recruitment now?
So unlike before where we were recruiting based on, so we're operations heavy, even though we're tech, we're still operations heavy. And because of the maintenance servicing, but that was how we started. But now we're more really, really tech inclined. We're not really recruiting technicians anymore. We've built a network of vetted third-party technicians, right? So we just need to call them and then hand them jobs. We don't need to recruit technicians anymore. So we are past that. So right now we are more tech inclined. So when it comes to recruiting for roles, any role, whether still HR, finance or whatever, we need to ensure that you have a certain level, a certain knowledge of technology. Then, particularly for the sales team, you need to ensure that you are more sales inclined or tech inclined, because you need to be able to sell the technology that we are offering or sell the solution that we are offering. So even during our sales recruitment, we infuse a lot of questions regarding your knowledge of technology. We give you case studies just to ensure that you really have an understanding of technology. So yes, we go through the technology route right now. A lot of
Right.
questions are tech based. Yeah.
Got you. All right. All right. Got it. So, so you touched on, you touched on sales, right? And sales is a little bit of an art and a science. So you've talked about tech, but how do you then assess for like, the art part? So in terms of skills, the soft skills, do you have things for that? How do you go about in terms of recruiting for salespeople now? So in
Okay.
general, you're looking at technical skills, but in general, when we say let's hone in on the sales team now, how do you go about
Okay.
recruiting for them?
So for sales team, it's not as it's not as easy, right, as the other roles, because sales is the heart, one of the hearts. All departments are the heart. I don't want my team members to hear me say this. All departments, sales is one of the hearts of our
Yeah.
organization. So we pay particular attention to that department.
Mhm.
Um, so for the behavioral aspect, for the cultural aspect of recruiting for sales team, we first off, when we put out the job ad or whatever, we're making use of agencies. The first conversation before we even start having technical conversations with the sales guys is just to assess who you are as a person, right? Your personality, how you behave in certain situations, how you see your outlook basically as a person, right? And then we also have peer conversations. So what we do is we put you in a setting with other members of your group or grade. So if you're hiring a middle manager, we put you in a setting with other middle managers, right? To have conversations. It can be a bit unsettling and discomforting. That's the idea, because we want to see how you approach situations in an uncomfortable situation, how you handle matters in an uncomfortable situation. Then we are able to tell the kind of person you are. And the reason why we do this is because our company, we go through a lot of changes, right? So
Mhm.
what probably you're seeing today is not what you're probably going to see next month, or something is going to change. So we need to be sure that this person can handle these changes properly. We don't want someone that is going to come in and then when we say, oh, something is changing next month, and say, oh, this is not how we always do in our pharma company. Oh, we are like this, we are like this, we are like that. Exactly. So during the interview, we will let you know that this is who we are as a company. We go through these changes. We are being very transparent with you. We tell you everything. We let you know this is how it is. An open book. So that when you come in, there are no surprises, right? And that's why we're very, very particular about the behavioral aspects, particularly the peer evaluation, because we want to really see how you are in a
Right.
natural setting. Yeah.
Right.
So
Would you
that's
say
how.
you're yeah, would you say you are still in the startup phase or the growth phase now as a business? Well, where would you put yourself?
I would say we're in the growth phase.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of things, a lot of problems, a lot of concerns that most startup go through at the very first stage, maybe like the first year, second year, thereabout. We've gone through all of that. We have clear understanding of how we want to know what type of business model we want to operate. When you start as a business, most times you're not really sure of what type of business model. You have an idea of
Mm.
what you want to do as a company, but sometimes it changes. Oh, you want to later add this, you want to take out this, you want to add that, it changes. But for now, we have clarity on where we are heading to as a business and what we want to promote as a business. So I would say we're in the growth phase of our business currently.
All right. I appreciate how you explained in terms of the way you go about trying to recruit, right? So
Mm,
with someone like myself, if I was applying to a MECO, I might say
mm,
I've had situations where I'm applying and I'm like, and they tell me, oh, you're going to assess, you're going to have peer conversations, and I'm like, "Ah, do I really like this company enough to want to do this?" So what are the
yeah.
challenges that you face? Like, do you face challenges based on that? Like, based on your process, like what are the challenges that you face in trying to,
Mm.
recruit sales professionals?
We do face challenges, but not as much. I think it's the way we approach it. Um, I don't know if there's a secret ingredient or something, right? But I think the way we approach it, the way we have conversations with candidates, we don't really have that much pushback in terms of, oh, this, I don't think I want to go through all of these processes. You wouldn't even know you're going through a 3-step or a 4-step process with the way it is. So most times, let's say I'm recruiting a salesperson now, right? The first conversation definitely will be with the HR team to assess your behavior or whatever. Then the
Right.
next thing would be to give you a case study. So the same day you're presenting your case study, it will also be the same day you're having a peer evaluation, right? So we don't have to do that on separate days, which makes it seem very long. So in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, if you're able to get good candidates, we wrap up the interviews, right? So that way we don't have so much pushback. Once you have about 4, 5 stages done on different days, I mean, we're human beings. You definitely expect some sort of pushback. Oh, I've been on this interview for a month now or 2 months. What's going on? But sometimes you just, merge like 2 steps in one. So you don't even know that, oh, you're assessing you for two different things,
Right.
on one day. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Good to note. Good to note. So when my application comes in, I already know what to expect. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna ask maybe two in one, but
Okay.
let me just talk a little bit following on the challenges, right? So you've talked about challenges, right? But
Mm,
um and we've talked about soft skills and you've talked about, peer conversations, but are
mm,
there particular skills that you look out for, maybe based on
mm,
your culture or based as a company, there are things that you look out for. So for some
mm,
people, they might say, oh, I'm looking at critical thinking, or for some people, I
mm,
want them to now to use numbers. There was a time I think I was talking to Uber, and for you to get into
mhm,
Uber, um, you have to do an assessment on like Excel because they want to see how you work with,
mhm.
numbers.
Yeah.
So do you have particular skill sets that you look for based on the fact that you are in the automotive space, but you're also a technology
Mhm.
company?
Okay, do you mean behavioral skill set or do you mean technical?
Anyone, behavioral, tech,
Um,
which ones
okay.
are the things that you look?
So for technical, it differs depending on the department for technical, but we have skill sets we look out for from different individuals depending on the department you're applying to. So for finance, for instance, because it is finance, you have to do an assessment using Excel
Right,
or Google Sheets.
right, got
So
it.
you have to do an assessment in Excel. That one is standard. Same for other departments as well. For the ops department, they have theirs. For the core tech department, they also have theirs as well. And then for behavioral, it cuts across the entire department, regardless of your unit. And two major things that we really look out for: adaptability and resilience. The reason is, like I think I mentioned this earlier, we go through a lot of changes, interesting changes, to be very honest. But we need people that can adapt to these changes. So a lot of our behavioral questions will be leaning towards, oh, how are you able to adapt to this? If this comes up, how do you handle it? What do you do in this type of situation? So those are two major skill sets, behavioral skill set that we're looking out for across, all units.
All right, thanks. Yeah, just to follow up, and do you look for technical skills from a sales professional? Are there any things you want to check from a sales professional?
Yeah, for sales, definitely. So for sales, because of our type of industry, our technical, what we look out for in terms of technical expertise is a bit different.
Right.
We're a spare part business, so we're looking for people that know how to sell spare parts, right? And it's a bit complex because you have people that can sell spare parts, but haven't necessarily worked in a corporate organization. So it's a bit difficult for us having to find somebody that knows how to sell spare parts to a B2B and knows how to sell spare parts to a business owner in a Spanda market or Ladipo market. Those guys don't speak English. So we need somebody that knows how to come down to their level and speak Igbo or Yoruba with them and sell.
Okay. Okay.
Exactly. And we also need somebody that knows how to put on a suit and go into an FMCG or a fleet management company and also sell. So it's a bit difficult having to find somebody that can do both. That's one. Another one is in the spare parts industry, you also have the aftermarket parts and then you have OEM parts. OEM parts are the parts that are produced originally by the manufacturers, right, of a vehicle. So Toyota has its own OEM parts. These are parts that Toyota produces itself.
Right.
Some candidates have worked in OEM parts and they're the OEM parts sector and they are really good, but they have never sold aftermarket parts. So they were like, oh, should we bring this? I mean, we've tried it before, but it was a big mistake because it took the person a really long time to get to build his or her, his target audience or build his customer base in the aftermarket sector and then getting to really understand the part in aftermarket. So it's really complex. So we just need to ensure that we narrow down everything to what we really need. If we need a sales specialist in spare parts, passenger vehicle, we need to ensure that we're not getting somebody that's a sales specialist in the truck segment of spare parts.
Right.
Because again, your customer network would be different. And for Meco, we don't really have that much time for you to start building a customer base. If you have so many companies that buy only passenger vehicle parts from you as an individual, if you join MECO and we're hiring you for a sales specialist in the truck department, it will take a while for you to build customer base in B2B. And B2B is very bureaucratic. It takes a long time to close a deal, right? And then you also have to start looking for customers in the market for the open market base or for the Spanda Ladipo, to start getting customers also going to buy truck parts because you've always specialized in passenger vehicle. So during this interview, we try to make sure that we find somebody that really, does what it is that we're looking out for. That way we don't set you up for failure once you come in, right?
Got it. All right. So thanks for sharing. You did touch on mistakes. So I'm gonna, double click on that. So
Okay.
in terms of mistakes, so I guess my question would be, so how do you correct this mistake? So you hire someone, or what do we do, right? So we hire someone. How do we even know it was a mistake? So person comes in, especially for sales. Sales is a numbers game, right? So you come in
Yeah.
month one, alpha, revenue, month
Mm-hmm.
so how do we ensure, one, maybe we don't make those mistakes, and then maybe if you want to highlight a little bit about the mistake and then how did you correct it?
So which one should I start with? Okay, let me start with how do we correct the mistakes, right? So we go back to the drawing board. We don't we don't we stick to what it is that we've established prior to the commencement of the recruitment. So if we say we're looking for a truck person, let's just get a truck person, right? We're not going to say, oh, this person in passenger vehicle seems very knowledgeable. Maybe he will do well. We don't want to set you up for failure. We've done that. That's one of the mistakes we made before, because it's more like, this person is really good. I don't think we want to lose this person. So let's just bring the person in. The person will try. It never really goes, it never really pans out that way, because it takes months. And then at the end of the day, we're not going to have that uncomfortable conversation to say, you've been here for 8 months, you've been here for almost a year, we haven't really seen anything, and then we'll have to terminate your contract, which we do not want to do. It's something we've done before. It's something we do not want to do anymore. So when we say we're going to hire a truck person, let's hire a truck person, regardless of how fantastic a passenger vehicle spare part specialist is. So that's that's one. The other question was what? I think that already
In
slipped my
terms of,
mind.
so that's how you correct the mistakes, but maybe highlighting, and I think you already did answer it in terms of maybe the
Okay.
mistakes that you have made, right?
Mhm.
So if I understand correctly, it is we are sticking to the need that we identified. We are not going to
Exactly.
say that, oh, because you
Mhm.
have some skill set here, we manage, right?
Yes,
But
exactly.
do you then train? Do you have situations where you then say, okay, you know what, this person is
Yeah.
coachable, like with sales, right?
Mhm.
You want to, sometimes you have people that are coachable. You're like, okay, I've seen
Mhm.
some foundational things in them. I feel like we can
Mhm.
coach them, right?
Yeah.
So how do we go about that?
Yeah, we've had situations like that as well, where I mean, before we have any uncomfortable conversation, I want really people understand. But when I say uncomfortable conversation, I mean conversation is like, okay, in 2 months, are you going to
Yeah,
leave? Or are
telling
you
you,
going to stay? Exactly. So before
or
we have
telling
that
you,
uncomfortable conversation, right?
yeah,
We like to do a lot of interventions. So would ask you, even when you resume, would ask what are the resources that you need to excel in this role. And then we do like regular check-ins with you. Our probationary period at the company is 3 months. So the first month we are doing a check-in with you. Second month we are doing a check-in. Third month we are doing a check-in with you. And then when
what
we
are we
notice that the
what are we
numbers,
checking? What
what
are
would
we
you say?
checking? You said
So
we're
we're
doing a
checking
check.
your perform. Yeah, we call it check-ins. So they are
Mhm.
called performance interventions or check-ins. So we're basically knowing, okay, are you settling in well? How would you rate your performance? Do you think you're doing well as an individual contributor, as a manager? What are the resources that you need or to do better? Those are basically what the check-in conversations are around. So we have those conversations with you. As a sales guy, you would know when your numbers are not good. Nobody really needs to show you any data because you're the one
Mm.
bringing in the sales. So once we have those conversations with you and you tell us, oh, maybe for me to be able to do this, maybe I need more transport allowance. I need freedom to still move. I need to explore this region. Let's say you've been given only one region to work in. Probably you come in and we are telling you, oh, your region is just Aspanda and Ladipo. And you're telling us, you know what, Aspanda and Ladipo might not work for me. Let me explore Ikorodu. Let me explore other areas of Lagos. If that's what you think will give you the numbers that you want, then that's fine. We'll work around that and then allow you to explore those regions. So we have these interventions. And then we also have like regular trainings. They're typical um what do I call this internal trainings. There are internal trainings that we have for our team. I think almost every department does this on a quarterly basis. And then we also have like Udemy trainings as well to improve your soft skills and other stuff. So we have
Yeah,
these interventions and then we have these trainings to ensure that your
got it.
performance.
Yeah. So basically, your recruitment, so hiring someone and ensuring that they're an A-team player doesn't just stop for. So if I understand correctly, and you can maybe elaborate, is that those check-ins are they part of your onboarding? So we've talked about you are looking at before they even come. We've
Mhm.
identified then the recruitment
Yeah.
process and all that, and then you have these check-ins, right? So that
Mhm.
entire flow, right, in terms of the recruitment, it's part of.
Mhm.
So is this part of your entire onboarding process?
Exactly. It's part of the entire onboarding process. However, we still have check-ins for employees that have even stayed 1 year, 2 years in the company, right?
Okay.
But for the new hires, this one is mandatory. For those that have stayed 2 years, we could decide to do maybe once in 6 months. But for employees that have risen maybe in the past 3 months, 6 months, we ensure to do this on a monthly basis. This one
Yeah.
is all monthly. And yes, it is part of the onboarding process.
Do you use any tool for this?
We no. Well, except it's a virtual meet. But what we do is we have physical conversations. We like to have one-on-one conversations. The reason why we prefer to have one-on-one conversations, it just seems more informal, more like a chat, so that you're able to really open up, right? So, and typically it's usually done by me, right? So I just like to have it like a coffee chat. We have like 3 spare offices, at the head office. So it's just like a chat, how's it been? It's not like an interview. So you don't feel, oh, I have to, let me not say something now that head of HR will go and that kind of stuff. So,
There's this stereotype of HR, that HR is the police. So how do you get over that, basically?
No, I don't think our employees see us like that. From the very get-go, myself and the co-founder, especially my CEO, who I report to, we had an agreement on the type of culture that we wanted to build. So we don't have a culture of HR are the bad guys. No, I don't think we don't. I don't think we don't, because we do have that feedback. Everybody is just chill, everybody is just free. HR doesn't interfere so much, and that's because I've ensured that we don't interfere so much. We allow the managers do their thing. We only interfere when there is a need to. And if we do interfere, we try to be humane about it. But of course, there are times we also need to have tough conversations.
Difficult conversations.
Yes, exactly.
All right. Thanks, Esther. So I'm going to pause for a minute. If we have questions, please put them in the chat. So we touching on 2 more points, but if we have questions, you can put them in the chat so that when we get to the Q&A, you'll be able to come off mute and ask Esther any question directly if there are things that you've heard that are of interest to you, right? Yeah, but Esther, I'm really enjoying the conversation so far.
Thanks.
It's
Me
really
too.
nice, and I know that I'm trying to be very conscious of time.
Yeah.
So in terms of, so let's talk a little bit about, we've talked about, all the steps. So in terms of, a successful hire, right? What are the things that you would say and say, oh, this is a super sales team, I know the number, but what are the things? Are there things that you see and you're like, oh yes, we're fantastic. We've done, HR 100%, basically.
Okay. Also, do you mean for the sales team now? For the sales team?
We can touch on other departments, but you can touch on sales,
Okay.
based
Okay,
on
so
specific.
based on the topic. So for sales, the metrics we analyze, right? To say, okay, the team, I wouldn't say HR, because it is not HR that does, it's not only HR that does recruiting, it's a team
Right.
effort, right? Especially when it comes to technical bits, I leave that to I really give managers like control, over who they want to have in their team. I don't interfere in that a lot as much exactly as other people. So the performance metrics, so I'll say metrics for success, would be for sales guys to be revenue, right? If you're hitting your targets, everybody has targets. If you're hitting your targets, even if you're not doing 100%, if you're seeing at least an 80, 85, especially in your first few months, right, would say, okay, right, we didn't make a mistake with this person in terms of numbers, which is the core, right? And another thing would be adaptability. Now that's the behavioral bit. We would also assess, how does this person, aside the interview, how has this person, been able to adapt to these changes? Because trust me, if you come into Meko 1 month, 2 months, it can never really be the same thing. You would notice changes. You would always notice changes. So it's not really the exact same thing. So would also tell, how has this person being receptive to change? Does this person complain, or this person nag a lot about these changes and all? So that's the second one. Then the third thing would be business. The goal of having an organization is to expand. I don't think any company just wants to be in one place for a really long time. You want to have more clientele. You want to expand.
It's all about the growth.
Yeah. So would also be in terms of the new businesses that you bring in. We want to ensure that when you come in, it's not just the previous contacts that you came with that you're generating revenue from. We also want to ensure that you've been able to use our resources to convert new clients or to get new clients. So those are like the metrics, the core metrics that we analyze for the sales team.
Right. Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. Now, I'm going to talk about, like I said, we just have a few more points. Let's talk about future of hiring, maybe for salespeople hiring in general, right?
Okay.
So you're an HR expert, you're a professional in this industry, and as you touched on technology and different things that come in, we also went through COVID, right? So where business had to transition. So does MECO operate a work from the office situation?
Mm-hmm.
Do you operate hybrid? Do you operate
Okay.
remote? What type of operations do you currently work with?
So MECO operates a hybrid system. We have employees work from the office, and we also have employees work from home. So there's a schedule, so you know the days you're working remotely, and then the days you're working from home, just so everybody is on the same page. I remember before we started, it was more like, okay, choose just a day. But then we were having issues with managers saying, oh, I didn't know this person was supposed to work from home today, so we just had to create a schedule. So every at the last week of every month, you have to send the manager has to send a schedule for the next month, so that way everybody is on the same page and we don't have those concerns. And that has been working great for us so far. So in terms of remote work, it. I would say organizations should just do what's best for them. Not every organization would like to have its team members work remotely, not because the owners or HR team, not because they are wicked people, but because it just doesn't work for them, right?
Mm,
So when you see organizations recalling their team members back to the office, it's not because they just hate or they're sadists, or they just don't like the fact that people are not in the office. No, it's just because
just
they've
want to see your
noticed that.
face.
Exactly. They just noticed that this is not really working for their business. Probably they've seen that numbers are down, they've seen that engagement is down, they've seen all of these things down. And then, so it's just basically, do what works for your organization. And if you're an employee and working in a company that operates an on-site mode of work doesn't work for you, I mean, there are other opportunities. So it just depends, to be very honest. But for us, hybrid works for us just fine for now.
All right, and your sales team, do they work hybrid as well?
Um, For our sales team, I wouldn't say they work hybrid. So theirs is a bit different because they have to be on the field most of the time,
Yes.
right? So there is a discipline. They know that if they have to be at the office, what are you working, saying you are working at home from when you know that you have a meeting and you have to be
Mm,
on the
mm.
field. So you don't have to. But on days maybe they don't have meetings scheduled for that day, and probably they just need to do administrative work like update their sheets and all of that, something they can always do from home.
All right, okay, thanks,
Mhm.
thanks for that. So let's talk about something that's been trending at least in this year. So let's talk about AI. So
Yeah.
are you adopting AI as an HR professional, or MECO, has AI affected your business? Are you looking into artificial intelligence?
Um, so when it comes to sales, I think human judgment will just always
Hmm.
trump AI when it comes to recruiting sales professionals.
Yeah.
Uh, yes, that's what I believe. Human judgment will always be key when it comes to sales hiring. I wouldn't say the only thing AI does for us right now is probably just to enhance things that maybe job ad, job profile, stuff
Hmm.
like that, the process. But in terms of the core, that's the interview, the recruitment, everything is still, human based. And
Human
for
face.
now, we're not really looking at employing a whole lot of, AI per se, right? Maybe until we've gotten to a certain level. But the only thing it just does for now is just to assist in certain assist. It doesn't really do much for us, to be very honest, for
Okay.
now.
All right. So let me ask you. So, a lot of people, I've heard people say, quite a number of candidates are using AI to, sort of massage their resume and to do
Yeah.
certain things. How do you filter through that noise? Are you able to be able to know the difference?
We don't have a technology that identifies that for now. But the thing is that when it comes to an AI CV or a human drawn CV, I think when you have a conversation with the person, you would always know. For me, it's fine if you make use of AI to revamp your CV, to do one or two things, it's fantastic. There's Grammarly that helps with your essays and whatever. It's fantastic, but just be sure that when you are having video interviews, maybe Kira or whatever, or face-to-face conversations, be ready to just defend whatever it is that you have in your profile. That's all. But I mean, it's really not bad. Even as HR professionals, we utilize HRs in, enhancing our job profiles just to ensure that it is up to date and all. But just be ready to defend whatever it is that you have in your resume. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Okay, thanks to know. So, last one on AI. So is AI replacing any jobs right now, Meko, or no? Or
No,
not
for
yet?
now, not
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right, all right, all right. So I'm gonna go into I'm gonna go into Q&A after this one. But what advice will you give to, this was supposed to be for HR professionals, for them to be able to recruit salespeople.
Okay.
So what advice do you have for HR professionals recruiting in different some of the industry? I did not mention earlier, we were supposed to have a second guest, Balumi, who worked in the insurance space, and they also their solution basically focused on being able to help automate claims. So they use technology to automate claims, right? So unfortunately, she couldn't be here, but hopefully we get her to do something else. But what do you have? What advice do you have for different HR professionals in various industries, basically in terms of trying to get the best salespeople?
I'll just say understand your industry, understand the stage of growth of your company. It is one thing to understand your industry. It is another thing to understand the stage of growth of your own company, because you can have two companies in an FMCG, two company in an insurance space, but they are not on the same level of growth. So sometimes when we come up with ideas and initiatives as HR practitioners, we need to be very, very cautious and take those things into consideration, because these things are things that can make or mar our reputation in an organization. I mean, it makes no sense when an organization that makes billions or trillions of money in a quarter is rolling out 50% salary increase, or we are recruiting more people. They can afford it, right? Because they're in a different stage of growth. They can do a lot of things, but your company is still it's just not on that level yet. So it makes no sense to now start recommending those things that another company is doing just because that company is on the same industry. So you need to understand the level of growth that your company is on before you make certain recommendations, even for hiring as well. Another thing I would say is, I think it's very important to also focus on soft skills, particularly, or maybe let me just say, maybe the evaluation process, the recruitment process, particularly the peer conversation. For us at MECO, we noticed that it worked wonders in terms of having to get the right fit. And I think it's something that a lot of organizations should employ. Have a peer, peer-to-peer evaluation, and just really assess the difference. It might not work for your organization, I don't know, but for my organization, it worked. So it's something that you can try, looking into.
All right, thank you. So I'm going to open it up for Q&A. So we're at 1:06, just 6 minutes past the hour. We did wait for people to join, so I think we're on now. So I'm just very conscious of time. So if you'd like to ask Esther a question, this is the time. You can put your questions in the chat, or if you can use the raise your hand button, and I can tell you to come off mute. So if you'd like to ask a question, please put your questions in the chat. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation, so that, and if the things, Salako is asking if this session is being recorded. Yes, the session is being recorded, and you would get the recording afterwards. It will also be on our YouTube channel. But if you have any questions, this is the time to ask those questions. Any questions at all, guys? Anita, Linda, James, any questions? Don't be shy. If you need to come off mute, I can take you off mute. Linda asked, I think said something before, get better. You are looking to get better insights in recruiting strategies as a theme. Yeah, okay, thanks for that. So I'm just going back to some of the points. So Linda, I hope you've gotten some strategies. I don't know what industry you're in, but I hope you got some strategies that would help. All right. Linda, do you want to say anything? Do you want to come off mute? All right. I think our audience is shy today. I always like to draw them out. I always like to talk.
It's fine.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's a message. Oh, Linda has responded. She said yes. So Linda is shy. She's definitely shy. She doesn't want to come off, but she said she has gotten strategies. I'm glad you got strategies. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thanks for responding. Sheung Salako, like I said, the recording is going to be available, but I don't know if you have any questions. I know you missed a little bit. James, any questions at all? If there are no questions, I would be wrapping this up shortly. Okay, someone else. Oh, Linda, you have a question. Okay, fantastic. Please go ahead. Let me unmute you. 1 second, please. All right, Linda, you should be able to talk now.
Okay. Yes, please.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yeah, good afternoon from this part of the world this afternoon. Yeah, it's a pleasure joining this webinar. Thank you for sharing your experience, for taking us down memory lane. I picked up a few things, but my question, I'll use the word a normal setting. And there are settings, but there are settings that are abnormal. Now, when it comes to recruiting or recruitment, how do you manage the aspect of biases or bias that has to do with age, whether within your industry or based on your company's culture? You don't consider that aspect, because I see it as a recurring decimal, especially in our climate in Nigeria. Beyond looking at the person specification, they go the extra mile to put that limitation. I see it as a limitation, and it could be conscious and it might be unconscious, but I feel, to me, it's deliberate. So what do you advise, or how do you handle it in your own climate, within your own business? And then what do you advise? Because I see, as a HR practitioner, it has been something that I take up with. I see recruiters, I see their adverts, and then you see that unconscious caveat. Age is a limitation. You see people who have the experience, who have the expertise, they want to work, they are willing and available to work, but you see that, I call it a delimiter on the person. And even if they shortlist you, at the end of the day, you are 99% sure you will not get the job. I mean, when you're 99% sure, I mean, you're as good as knowing that you're not scaled through. So how do you, and what advice you have for people who practice that bias, unconsciously or consciously? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for that question. Very, very good question. Esther, before you respond, I just want to point out something that, just for you guys to know. Yes, Esther is calling from the US, but actually MECO is actually a Nigerian company, and you can touch a little bit more on that. So they also, so she does have experience for the Nigerian market. So why don't you experience?
Okay. All right. Thank you, Linda, for that question. Unfortunately, it is our reality. And the truth is this, right? It is not just even in Nigeria. It is also here in the US. Yeah, so it is not even a Nigerian thing, to be very honest. It is not something, it's not something that is welcoming. It is not something that it is, I wouldn't say it's a good thing, right? But unfortunately, it is what exists in the society. I know a lot of companies now deliberately do not do that, although some companies still do that. It's something we are still trying to fight. But this is on the flip side, right? I'm not trying to make any, I'm not trying to support some companies, but this is what I've also seen. Now, there are some roles, right, that will require a lot of energy, maybe physical energy. Let me just put it that way. A lot of physical energy. Now, for roles like that, they might be very specific and tell you, for instance, if I'm looking for an inventory officer or a logistics officer or a loader and carrier, I'm definitely going to be looking out for people that are more energetic, that are people that are younger. Definitely, you would have somebody that is maybe 50 something and maybe 60 something also tell you that he can do the job. But then again, the company is also trying to protect itself. You don't want to have to bring in a 60 something year old person doing a lot of heavy lifting. And this is because, like I mentioned, they're also trying to, protect themselves. Even here in the US, it is also done. They'll tell you for some roles that require a lot of vigor, a lot of energy, you rather go for a younger person. For those type of roles, I would understand that, oh, okay, because of health reasons, because of so and so, that's why they require somebody that is younger. But then there are some other roles which honestly makes no sense to me. And to be very honest, I can't say this is how to fix it because nobody has been able to fix it. If I'm being very honest, nobody has been able to fix it. It's just something that we as HR practitioners, maybe we just need to keep educating the owners of business, because sometimes the owners of businesses are always the ones pushing that this is what they want, this is who they want. And some HR practitioners have little or no control over that. Once the owner says, this is what I want, right? But it's something that we can always just be advocating for. So for me, for people that are in that situation, that are going through that type of bias, it's a very sad thing, to be very honest. But I'm just going to say, just keep on going. You would always find jobs that would always hire people that are on the older spectrum, right? There are people that don't require people that are older because of experience. So just say that, oh, this company is not just for me, and then you move on. It's not going to be wise to, maybe call out the company on social media. I've seen some people do that. That's why I'm saying some people do that. Just move on. But in summary, it's an unfortunate situation, but it's not really something that we can solve at once, because it's not just something that happens in Nigeria. It also happens in other parts of the country. However, for some other roles, I would understand why they would require somebody that is younger, especially if it's a role that requires a lot of energy, a lot of physical movement. So that's all I can say. It's unfortunate, but it's something that we can't really eliminate in one sitting.
All right. Thank you, Esther, for that. Linda, I hope that helps a little. Definitely. I feel like, just to chime in, there's also this situation of, some of the technology companies being skewed towards more people who basically use the technology, and sometimes maybe someone a little bit older might not be familiar with some technology. So that sometimes.
For that one though, sorry to cut it. For technology, I don't agree.
You don't agree? Okay.
I don't agree to companies and that was when I gave an example. I only mentioned physical. Exactly. Yes. I was deliberate using physical energy because I have actually seen some older people, right, really adapt to technology. It's just that some employers do not just want to, they feel, oh, I don't have that time to train somebody. Exactly. They don't have that time to take the chance. So rather just get somebody that already knows it, rather than bringing somebody that they probably have to train. Yeah, but it's something that personally I'm not in support of, because I know of some older people that are really quick at learning technology. But then again, unfortunately, like I mentioned, it's just something that we really cannot eliminate in one sitting. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much, Esther. But that was a fantastic question. I really, really appreciate it. And Anita, anybody else, any questions before we wrap up? I know time is a little bit fast spent, so apologies for that, but I do hope you enjoyed the session, and then you can always go back to watch it. We will send you the link, but it'll also be on the YouTube channel. Any other questions? All right. If there are no questions, in terms of the last thing I would say is, so Esther, thank you so much. Now, where can people find you, or can they find MECO, in case they want to, learn a little bit more about you, or they want to connect with you?
Okay, so you can find our company on LinkedIn, MECO Autotech. I'm trying to copy the link and see if I can put it on the chat.
Okay.
I think I can. Okay. Okay, all right. Yeah.
Great.
So that's our LinkedIn page. On Instagram, just check MECO Autotech. You'd see us there. Yeah, so that's that. So that then myself, just if you want to connect, I'm just gonna put my LinkedIn page as well on the chat. Okay.
All right.